But back to the bike was working great. I haven't had one issue since the update, since the call with Stark. Okay guys, I just wanted to do a quick follow-up video on my Stark after my firmware update and my tech support call with Stark over Zoom. I took the bike out to Glen Helen, which I'll show you in a moment. The bike worked great, no problems. It ran like the beast that it is. Had a great time riding. I actually did a little battery test as well. So what I did is I rode a total of 42 minutes straight. Starting with the 100% on the battery. I took the battery all the way down to roughly 30% for 42 minutes. And that was actually riding pretty fast, pretty hard. I rode the vet track for 14 laps. Then I headed directly over to the main Glen Helen track with uphills and downhills and jumps. And I rode there for, I don't know, maybe another 15 minutes or so for a total of 42 minutes of riding. So the battery lasted, went from 100% to 30%. Now we're not gonna do a moto that's 40 minutes long. I mean, unless you're a pro or an expert or something, I mean, that's trying to be a pro and you're practicing for those kind of laps. Most of us riders who ride this bike, we're gonna do 20 minutes. So I would say that out of a 100% charge, really pushing the bike, with some uphills and some downhills, you're gonna get at least 30 minutes, maybe 40, maybe 45 minutes out of it. 45, 50 minutes might take you into the 10-15% battery range, which might get a little sketchy, so I wouldn't necessarily try that. But the battery held up for me. And now I will say that when I finished riding the bike, I took it back to the truck, threw it on the generator to charge. It took a little while to charge. It took 30 minutes to go from 30%, 32% battery to 50% battery. So I charged it up, took that back out on the track, and that sucker drained fast. So at 50%, 50% and less, the batteries drain quick. So, and this was riding the main track, Glen Helen, some uphills, some downhills, more uphills. The dirt was wet, moist, and thick, so the bike was working, digging for traction. So that sucked the battery quickly. So I quickly got back down from 50% all the way down to 25%. I would say in less than 10 minutes. So the charging isn't the best. If you had a 220 outlet to charge from, it's going to charge twice as fast. So in that case, if I had 220 on my generator or 240 on my generator, I plugged it in for 30 minutes, it would probably get me up to, what would that be, 70%, which would give me a better longevity on the battery for the ride. So that might be something you guys want to consider. Now what I did do is I found this Y splitter that sends 110 down two legs to a 240 volt or 220 volt plug, female plug, which I could use the other cable that Stark gave me for the 220 outlet. I could plug that in and it would give me 110 down each leg, which would give me 220 into the bike to charge it as if I was running off of a 220/240 outlet. I did try this plug. It didn't work. It didn't work. I'm not sure. The Stark, once I reconnected everything inside of the charging unit on the stand, the bike did not recognize that it was plugged in for charging. So maybe that Y adapter isn't all that it's supposed to be. I wouldn't try it again, but I'll put it up on the screen so you guys can see what it looks like regardless. So I did switch everything back around in the charging unit on the stand to get the bike back so I could charge off of the 110 outlet. So we're just gonna have to plan our charges better when we go to the track. Maybe not write it down, maybe only do, I like to ride for long periods of time, so maybe only do a 25-minute moto, which technically might get me down to 50%. So if I do a 30-minute break, I can charge up to 70%, which would give me another 30-minute moto. That might work out just fine. Again, it all depends on what kind of track you're riding on, what kind of terrain that you're going across. Again, I was riding at Glen Helen, and I'll post some video on that. The track was fairly rough, lots of water, lots of deep ruts. It was a good track. But back to the bike was working great. I haven't had one issue since the update, since the call with Stark. I will say this, after their initial update, what was that, Tuesday, they came on through the Zoom and they updated the bike remotely. After they did their update, I came out Wednesday, no, actually, I rode Thursday, came out Friday to charge the bike, and I had received an email from Stark saying that there was another update that was available for the bike. So I turned the bike on, and sure enough, the bike, once it connected to 4G automatically, it started flashing magenta. So I knew that there was an update available. I went ahead and did the same button sequence that we did in the previous video to download that software and to get the update installed. And I installed the update and rode the bike again. Worked great. So at this point, I'm pretty happy with everything I got going with the Stark. At this moment, I'll keep you guys updated with any new stuff I find. Once again, after the last talk with Stark, the bike seemed to be working great. Took it out to ride at Glen Helen, had a great time around the track, learning my bike. No problems. It didn't shut off at all when doing any abrupt landing like it did initially on day 3 of my ride. What else? I think that's about it for now. What I will leave you with is a little bit of me riding Glen Helen. Hope you enjoy. You know, riding videos can get kind of boring, so we'll just do just a 1 minute, 1 lap. You can get a look at what it looks like to ride that track on the electric bike. All right, guys, stay tuned. Talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye. All right, guys, this is the Glen Helen track. You can see the iconic Talladega turn up top there. So we're gonna get on the track here. You notice the bike is so quiet. It's kind of crazy, but it's cool also. There we go, so we sweep around the outside the turn. And I'm just riding just to get used to the bike on this track. I haven't spent too much time on the main track on this bike, only on my 450. So I don't want to crash and ruin it, or ruin it for anyone else who's out there practicing. So we come around the corners. Now this was a good berm, left-hand turn, then it sweeps right and you head up a hill. There's some rollers going uphill. So the bike, it was good, lots of power. This is slushy stuff. It really sucked the power. I actually looked down at the battery at the display on the phone one time, and I saw like the battery light jump down like 2%. But then it came back up immediately after with this braking down the hill. Yeah, so you got to keep an eye on the battery when you're driving uphill hard or in some loamy, wet stuff. So we sweep around the corner there, and we come up over this, heading towards this hip jump. It's a pretty fun jump. The power came on quick. I was able to get over it nice and smooth, and then drive towards this big tabletop. I mean, it is what it is. Wasn't too used to tapping the rear brake in that bike yet. I always still want to go for the clutch, then tap the brake. So I just chose not to tap anything and just get around the track the best I could until I feel more comfortable. I'm sure my pace will pick up once I feel comfortable. Here they had a sloppy turn. The bike, it drove pretty well through there. It tracked straight. I mean, the bike handles great, even over this little whooped out section. The track was moist. The traction was good. The torque was great in the bike. We had a good time out there. Just made it around, and that's pretty much what the track's about. I mean, the jumps don't look big on camera, but they're decent size. You should come out sometime and hit the track. Glen Helen would love that. She would love to eat you.